And now our final guest on the Money Lap Live is none other than the man who used to end his name with .com. That is Jeff Gluck from The Athletic, live from Las Vegas. Thank you for being here, Jeff. We need you to take us into the feeling, the atmosphere, the ambiance of what's happening, what some are considering the biggest off-track motorsports event ever. I just made that up right now. But it does look like that. It looks like everything off the track is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I just finished writing my first. I'm going to be doing like a daily diary here every day. Excuse my voice, by the way. It's already
Typically what
Vegas
daily
froggy.
diaries are, Jeff.
Daily diaries, yeah.
Where you write them every day.
Don't worry, I'm losing mine as well. We've all got the postseason sickness. So
yeah, well, that's Vegas will enhance mine. So, but I was trying to sort through it this morning. Like, how do I feel about this so far? Because I got here and I was really nervous. I was really anxious about, like, how am I even going to get around? Like, I'm staying at the Mirage, so I'm right here on the strip, but like there's grandstands right in front of my hotel, and you can't cross the street in any of the crosswalks because they're shut down for the track. So like, they have some of the bridges, but the bridges are not as common, and they're not as, they're more spread out, I guess. And you hear all this stuff about the workers, like how are they going to get to the hotels? Like, am I going to, like, can I eat? Am I going to be able to find food? Like, just sort of the basics, I guess. And I don't have a ticket or anything. I don't have a credential. My assignment here is to just go around the city and write about what I see. So I'm like, can I even move around? So I was anxious about it. But then honestly, as soon as I started walking around yesterday, I was like, okay, all right. Like it's set up like a street course, or at least what I perceive to be a street course based on, Long Beach and places like that, where, there's walkways, there's signage. I mean, you're walking on the strip and it's like paddock this way, like, you're like, oh, well, I mean, they've set it up like a street course and it looks like a street course. I mean, it's sort of like, wow, they've actually pulled this off. That's sort of my first impression. Like, I think they've done it. Like, I don't know how the race is going to be, but they have set up the track to look like a racetrack, and it looks beautiful at night. The lights were on last night. I was like, okay, this could be good. Like, again, is it going to be a shit show? Probably. Like, the traffic's going to be terrible and all this stuff, and I'm sure there's going to be those elements of it. But I mean, I think what you said, Parker, about like the biggest motorsports sort of event off track. I mean, what has ever been more hyped or bigger than this in terms of, like, I mean, they're taking over the strip and racing down at 212 miles an hour. It's insane.
You last night were at a deal, according to your social media, for Mercedes with your buddy Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic. And I've been reading some of your stuff, and it's awesome seeing your social postings. So thanks for doing that. Like, that event alone would be an incredible activation for a race team or race series, even, right? To have had those cars. And I think we were trying to grab some video of it. Maybe our production team can find it as you're describing it. But basically, the Mercedes event was the cars going down like a runway or some sort of track. I don't even know where you were. And there was drones. And then eventually it's Lewis Hamilton and George Russell. I mean, how many people were there? Hundreds? Famous people? It was like, what is going on?
Yeah, it was. I guess this is somewhat common in F1 world. I don't know. It doesn't happen to us in NASCAR very much. Like, I got an invite like first week of October, and it was very, very vague. And it was just like, come join us out in the desert for this Mercedes IWC watch event. Bring a coat for the desert chill. And like, there was really no details on like what it was. But I'm trying to take advantage of every single invite I can get this week, right? So like, I'm like, well, I'll go to that, sure. Like, I don't know what it is, but so yeah, Jordan and I went, and like, we're just standing around. I thought it was like a media thing, honestly. Like, I thought it was just gonna be like the media there, and maybe like they'd have George and Lewis come out, or they'd talk about like, oh, the race is gonna have to be good this weekend. Like, it was like celebrities and influencers and all this stuff. I'm like, what am I doing here? Beautiful people, and yeah, like, I mean, they had these drones were going up and like lighting the path for the cars. Have you guys ever heard of Speed Vegas? I guess that's where it was. It's like
Okay.
South of the South Point on the 15, like way down there. I had never, yeah, it's some sort of like high performance track, and I think they just took it over and made it into like some sort of desert pop-up village with all this. I mean, it was crazy. But I'm like, I was saying to Jordan, like, how much do you think this costs? Like the drones alone, like hundreds of drones, they were going in like the shape of a watch and cars and like literally following, like lighting Lewis and George's way as they're driving at night, on this track. And like the court, I'm just like, what is this? Like, this is crazy. So yeah, I can't, and that's like Tuesday of race week, right? Like what else is going to happen this week? I just, the amount of activation and planning and parties and branding and just everything that's happening this week is just, it really boggles my mind. I don't even know how to process it,
The cost thing. Landon and I keep going to that for a activation of this level. What like this probably that one activation is bigger than all of them combined.
I mean, dude, there was like they had these crates, and one of the crates was you had to put your phone into a like a sleeve, and they locked the sleeve. And there was some Mercedes AMG car in there that had never been seen to the public yet. And people were like lining up to go in there and see it. So we actually, this is kind of embarrassing, but we were like, let's get in line for this. Like, this must be cool. Like everybody else is in line. So they put our phones in like this little sleeve or whatever and locked it. And our phone started like vibrating. We lasted like 30 seconds, but we got out of line. They're like, can you just unlock our phones? Like, no, I can't do this. I can't wait in a line with my phone locked up for this long. I don't need to see the car that bad. But they had like this. Have you ever heard of Sakai? It's like a fashion brand.
I can't think so. No, I don't know. That's a Landon question.
Some Japanese fashion brand. They had a pop-up store inside of a crate, and like the celebrities would be letting you buy this exclusive. What do you call it? It was like a drop. Yes, sorry. This is how uncool I am. They had this drop, and you could only buy it there. It was being premiered there, and so like Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad and like James Marsden, like everybody's watching them through the windows. They're going out and they're like, I'm gonna buy this. And you're just like, what? It was just like you could build your own IWC watch, and it was just like, what? It was so foreign to me, like the whole thing. I just felt so like. It was like watching a movie of like what I would think the fashion world and trend, influencer world is all about, but I'm not in that. So it was just weird,
What's the...
It makes you wonder, how could they...
Oh, go ahead.
How did this possibly all be monetized? That is, you know what I mean? Like...
Yeah.
It's insane.
I think there's so much
like
money flowing through all of it that, yeah, do they care? I mean... I think so much of it is just like we want to be associated with famous people and influencers and the high end stuff. Like it's going to cost so much money to do this, but like we're going to put on a show. Like, do you know Jordan Woods, like the Kylie Jenner best friend? She was there last night. Like, well, I mean, you have Jordan Woods at your event. She has like 12 million Instagram followers, stuff like that. Like, it's just, I guess that's the game,
Right.
What's the crowd like? What are you seeing so far? I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about the ticket prices dropping 60% or more, the hotel prices. Is there a lot of people there? I mean, it's Vegas. That's a hard thing to say because there's not.
I mean, I mean, maybe it's because it's a Tuesday, but like I had no traffic yesterday. I took 4 different Ubers, never sat in any traffic. Never really had any problem walking around the strip. The casinos last night, like walking through, it was like kind of empty-ish, half empty. I think there's 2 things. Maybe number one, the heart of the crowd's not here yet. Maybe. Yeah. And as a part of that, I think they priced a ton of people out, right? Like people saw the ticket prices, $1,500, $2,500 for a grandstand ticket. I'm not going to go there and spend hotel money and food and whatever, travel, airfare. Like a normal person can't afford that. So they're not going to go. And then you had the other people, like let's call them like the normal Vegas people who were going to go there for a bachelorette party or a guy's trip. they're seeing all this. They're like, well, I'm not going to Vegas that weekend. That's insane. Like, you can't even do anything. You can't cross the street, right? So like, why? So I think you lost those people. So I wonder if it's actually, and maybe I'm wrong. And by the time the race gets here, it'll be, filled to the brim like Vegas always is, and it'll be a weekend too. But like, I don't know. It seems this is like the emptiest I've sort of felt Vegas, I feel like, in a while. But it was a Tuesday also.
That's what I was
so
going to ask. Like, you've been to Vegas on a Tuesday. We've all been to, for industry things and whatnot. We've all been to Vegas on a Tuesday for some reason. Does it feel more dead than a normal Tuesday in Vegas? And did F1 sort of taking over Vegas make it to where the only people that are in Vegas right now are there for F1, which could be a net loss for the regular Vegas traffic?
U2 shut down, right? Bono shut down the.
Yeah,
they
a
shut
lot
down
of the closed. The shows are closed this week. Like the residencies, they're not.
It's a great point.
They're gone. Yeah, like there was this McLaren event last night at the Virgin Hotel, which used to be the Hard Rock. And I went over there, and you had to walk through like the casino to get there, and like I was like, is this casino open? Like there was like nobody sitting at the slots at all. There was like race team personnel, walking through and stuff, but it was like, where are the people? And I thought maybe it's hard to get to, so they're not here, but it was so bizarre. Yeah. So I guess it's inconclusive, Landon. Like, I don't know yet. I'd like to see how today goes, to see if the crowds get bigger or, but I haven't even left my hotel room yet today. I'm trying. So, the schedule is so freaking weird here. Like, they're practicing at like 1 a.m. They're qualifying at midnight local, all the stuff. Like, I'm trying to get my body to stay up later, because then a lot of the events are after that too, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, like they'll get off track at like 1 or 2, and then they're gonna have this party at 3. You're like, okay. So I'm trying to like do like a graveyard shift type thing. Like I tried staying up till 1:30 last night, and I got up this morning to write, but like it's almost noon here. I'm still in my hotel, so I haven't even ventured out there yet today. But it's a weird, like the media sessions are, I think they start tonight at like 10 p.m. local, like the driver interviews and stuff. Like it's so, but the Europeans are like Lando was saying at this event last night. He's like, well, this is afternoon for us right now. Like, I think they're doing one of those like Singapore type schedules where they don't adjust their bodies, and they're already on, they sort of stay on their time. It's the Americans who would have a little bit harder time adjusting, I think.
Yeah. So what's the math on that? So I guess the 1 a.m. is like the morning. It's like I'm trying to figure it all out, right? And like we had a Red Bull F1 engineer, former F1 engineer, Blake Hensley on here earlier talking about this for the crew guys, where they'll get out of there like 4 or 5 a.m. and the worst thing they can do is see the sunlight before they go to bed. So like it's similar to Singapore, I guess, and how they've done this. So it's very unique in that sense. Like for those events, and you mentioned you want to go to everything you can, is there also a ton of overlap, or do you feel like you have a sense that they've done a good job of like working together, or is this just like chaos trying to run to all these different things that everyone's trying to do all at the same time for the same crowd?
I think there's going to be a lot of overlap. I personally haven't gotten invited to that much yet. I'm still trying to cast a wide net and let people know that I'm looking for stuff. But stuff has started
help
to
them out.
In. I'm now getting sort of my first conflicts of like, oh, well, I said I was going to go to this thing, but that's also at the same time. And it'll be like, well, this party has like Marshmallow, and this party has Metro Boomin, and this party has, and you're like, they've all hired like every single person they can hire. It feels like every potential musician and EDM artist is playing these random parties every night. And yeah, I don't know what crowd. I don't know if like the influencer crowd, like, are they getting every single invite, or are they being targeted by a certain group? Or I don't know how you. Yeah. I would imagine they're probably being targeted by everybody if their name lands on some list, right?
Are you doing your own event, the Tweet Up? Will we see a Tweet Up announced?
I would think not. I moved the media hotel is this place called like the Tuscany, which I'd never heard of until yesterday. But
nope.
the media, it's off the strip. It's near the paddock and stuff. And that was at the time, the rates there were like better than, like $400 a night or something, whatever it was. It was way better than you get on the strip when they first did it. So all the media people booked there. And I moved to, because I don't have a credential for the race. So I'm like, well, why do I have to be at the media hotel? I'm not going to the paddock anyway. So my stay at the Mirage here is $1,000 cheaper than it is now to stay. The hotel rates have plummeted so much. And they gave me, yesterday I checked in. I mean, I'm not like a high roller. I can see the strip from my room. Like,
oh, wow.
How? Like for NASCAR weekend, they wouldn't give me a room here at the same hotel. And I was like,
by the way, yeah, Landon's had the same thumbs up for the listeners, by the way. Jeff Gluck just got the computer thumbs up. Are you on a new MacBook?
Yeah, how does this happen?
We're all wondering.
Is that like your birthday balloons?
Yeah,
it's the same thing.
It's the birthday balloon thing.
Right.
Go back when we're done with this whole stream. We're gonna be done.
Okay.
We're wrapping the show up in about 20 minutes. When we're done with this whole stream, go back and watch the opening scene of this show. And as soon as I come on, I make some kind of hand gesture, and like balloons come up behind me and
fireworks.
I have no idea what it is. Something to do with my computer.
Wow. Oh, you think it's a Mac?
And you and I must have the same computer because
it's a Mac thing.
It happens to me. It happened to me the other day when I was doing on a Zoom with Jordan. There you go. What?
We got it again, folks. We just had balloons.
Are you sure someone's not
that's
doing
what I
that
did.
To us?
Congratulations.
Okay.
I don't know.
There's no way to make it happen. It decides. It is you have been chosen at that time by the Apple universe to be celebrated in either balloons, fireworks, or a thumbs up, and they like what you're doing. This is like Black Mirror stuff right here, basically. Jeez. So back to what you're doing.
Sorry,
there.
I got totally off. Yeah.
No, I did too. I mean, there's nothing more interesting than these random pop-ups on the screen. So like when you look at all that's happening, and with this F1 explosion, we're all, some are saying peak F1 right here, and Landon and I have both kind of been on that. This is probably the epitome of as big as this all gets. What can the other motorsports take from it? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you thinking you're going to see over the next 4 or 5 days? You're going to be like, what NASCAR, what Indycar, what these American, institutions in motorsports could learn from what F1 has done here is what? What can we take from this?
I was talking to Jordan last night on the bus to this thing, and we were like, can you imagine if the Cup drivers were asked to come into a city on the Tuesday before a race and then just stay there all week? Like, they would freaking riot. They would if a drivers union had not been formed yet or whatever, like that would finally form a drivers. They would be so mad that they were being asked to do so much and do so much media and so like whatever, like seriously, like and I think that is something that NASCAR in particular has really lost in recent years, especially going to 2-day weekends, and having NASCAR arrange it so that, hey, like we'll even have a late start on a Saturday so that you guys and the teams can fly in that morning. Like a lot of the Cup drivers at some weekends are in market for like a day and a half essentially. And I don't want to sound like Eddie Gossage ripping Denny for not coming to his market or whatever, but like, and I think, when Bob went on DBC a month ago or whatever, and he used this what an idiot on the NASCAR industry for not having like a content day, not having some sort of fan event day. That's what all these guys are doing. Like, I mean, first of all, they're still not even on track till tomorrow, and they were all here yesterday. And I'm not saying that NASCAR needs to go to, have the drivers go into Pocono on a Wednesday and stay there all week. I get that that's not practical, but like, there's got to be some sort of balance between, okay, like we're not on track as much. Let's make Friday. And they said they were going to do this at first, and they just never did it. But like, let's do all our media that day, or let's do fan events that day. Like, you don't even have to be on track to give some value to the fans and get people, interacting and showing personality. I mean, we talked about, you guys, the whole star power thing, right? Like on your podcast. And I think I went to this again, not to harp on it, but I went to this thing last night. One of the few invites I got again. So I was like, I'll go. It was a McLaren thing with Jack Daniels, right? And it was Lando and Oscar, and they were there for an hour. And they did a Q&A. They did a meet and greet. They had a mocktail competition where they had to make their own mocktails or whatever. And everybody was watching. And, then they passed out the real cocktails to, the people that had gotten this invite to this thing. I was listening to Lando, like he got asked like a really basic, like, do you listen to music to get yourself hyped up before the race? Like the kind of question that you guys as drivers get asked all the time. And it's the same, do you pee in the car type thing, right? Like where I feel like a lot of times you would hear the answer from a NASCAR driver and they'd be like, yeah, we listen to music or I have these superstitions. So he gets asked this question and I'm thinking, oh God, what a waste of your question, sir, Mr. Fan in the audience. And Lando like completely takes it into like this direction of like, when my trainer used to make me do this and I found this really distracting and now I listen to music because of this and I don't like to do this routine. I like to try to keep myself calm. Like this whole like long, interesting answer. And I was like, wow, that was really, I could almost like write a story off that. Like that was super interesting. But they're not at the tracks. They're not in a rush. Like he's there for an hour, right? Like you're not going anywhere. When you take that setting away from, I think NASCAR, not to go on this big rant here, but like, we don't really have that opportunity to hear from those guys. I feel like a lot of times. So I go back to, and sorry, like you can just cut me off anytime because now I'm on a
Keep
roll.
going.
Like the media bullpens that we have. I appreciate NASCAR for trying to do what they can with those. But like during the playoffs, after the playoff drivers were eliminated, we no longer talked to those drivers. So like we didn't talk to Kyle Busch for the last 7 weeks or something, right? Like yep. Harvick on the weekend of the Forever 400, named after him, he did no media. We had no media. There was a Rodney Childers session, but like we didn't get to talk to Kevin Harvick on the weekend of the Forever 400 or whatever. Like these guys, they do media and fan appearances all the time. And they're F1 drivers are supposed to be like untouchable. Why can't the NASCAR drivers who are starving for star power and attention, why can they not be asked to do like a little bit more? I don't think that's that much of an ask.
Do you think it's a culture thing? Do you think it's a culture thing? Because I'm gonna agree with you here. I've actually been on this tirade of like, one, there's not enough content. Two, I've midweek content. Hell, this Money Lap Live, right? We're doing a 3-hour show, Landon, Cassill, and I. This is not even something that exists in our motorsport world right now, right? In any major capacity. It just doesn't happen right now because for whatever reason, we just there's 2 days of racing and then it's over, right? And there's not enough content. There's not enough times to learn about these drivers. And to your point, having done the pit reporting side, when we get past those rounds of the playoffs, those drivers that aren't in are out, right? And I've been there. I mean, I am there. Most weekends, when I get out of the car and I've finished 12th, I want to leave. Like, it's the culture, right? I want to just get out of there. But to your point, it's like, and then going ahead of time, we've just immediately gotten rid of all that because it's almost like there is no activation happening. There is no large sponsors that are coming in there like American Express and building a large 4-story building in the middle of Las Vegas to house people, right? That's not happening. So where, I guess my question is like, one, it's the culture. Two, if we don't have the partners paying for it and making it happen, then who does it fall on to make it happen, right? Does that make, you know what I'm saying? Because like you have the Williams fan zone, but obviously that's funded by the partners, the McLaren Jack Daniels deal, the AMG Mercedes, that's Mercedes. Who does it fall on that has to go, hey, we're going to put on this big event on Thursday in Vegas for the Cup playoff race or Daytona? I had a kid who came up to me at a signing I was doing in Daytona in the summer race. And he said, hey, this is the only thing. Do you know anything else going on? My deal later this evening got canceled. I'd love to go to more events. I didn't know what to tell him. I didn't know where to go, right? Like he had nothing. I was like, I don't know where to look for an event anymore. It's lacking. Is it culture or is it spend?
I think you've really, really seen NASCAR get hurt by that, right? Like the activations and the partnerships. They're not. You remember you used to go on like J Ski's like appearance page or whatever, and you would just every driver would be going this, and you could say, oh, I could plan my whole thing. I could go all over here. I think that's definitely a big part of it. And sure, F1 has the partners that are invested in it. But if you go back 10 years ago, I mean, Parker, you know, this is a longtime loyal F1 fan. You weren't going to be able to pull this kind of thing off without the interest that there is now. Jordan Bianchi wrote this story, you know, this week about the old Caesars Palace Grand Prix, and Derek Daly had a quote in there about how back then the drivers would get changed in their room in Caesars Palace, change into their fire suit, walk down, get breakfast in their fire suit, and walk to the track in their fire suit, and nobody would know who they are or whatever, right? Because that was how F1 was viewed.
They lived like the commercials
in the States, right?
Yeah.
It's like, So obviously now these guys are, I mean, these guys might be some of the biggest celebrities in town here in a whole week of celebrities. And how do you get to that rock star status? I mean, obviously Netflix did that, but I feel like a lot of these guys are invested in their own brands. I was talking to Landon about this for a while about, you know, Charles Leclerc and, you know, investing in his own YouTube channel and hiring race service to do a bunch of stuff for him and stuff. And it, you know, obviously it can't all fall on the drivers. It can't all fall on NASCAR. It can't all fall on the teams, but there's got to be some recognition of like, could we all do a little bit more? It doesn't have to be, let's dramatically change things and let's every single week we're going to do this and every, you know, but could people give a little bit more out of their schedule? I know everybody's busy. I know it's a long season as it is, but you know, these guys are doing 23 races all around the world. And they are in high demand and they're still making it work. So you would wonder what else could NASCAR do to have their drivers have a little bit more buy-in in that sense.
It's a really, really good point. And I agree.
I'm thinking like
it's buy-in. And who's it come on? You know, who's it come to? But I don't know.
I don't know. I'm thinking slowly about this right now. Like it's because it is something where it's just like, who is it really on? It's not on anybody specifically. It's on everybody. And maybe that's what Parker means by cultural, because when you start talking about the drivers individually, I think, gosh, one single NASCAR driver could just make the point to go to every race venue a day early and arrange public appearances for nothing, right? Like, you know, reach out to local businesses, local markets, make themselves available for hours, you know, at a time, and for no cost other than their time and the ability. And we all do that to some degree when we're asked to. You know, we have sponsors that ask us to do that. You know, we do it organically, whatever. But you know, Parker, next year, my challenge for you is to go to every track a day early.
We actually did that.
But then
we actually did that this year.
On the other side of things too is like, you know, obviously the teams could do more, and the partners we talked about that, you know, but then I think the real question where we started the conversation is, what could NASCAR do, right? What could NASCAR do to make this stuff happen? On your show, you know, on 12 Questions, Jeff, you and I talked a lot about like, well, NASCAR doesn't have a lot of ownership over the drivers right now, right? It's the teams that do. So NASCAR kind of can try to make things happen. But to make that big of a sweeping change to say every single week you have to come and, you know, all 40 drivers have to be available, would be a pretty big sweeping change. And it would also be, you have to really ask yourself, what are we doing, right? Like, are we going to get 40 drivers to come to the track? What are they doing there? Are they just going to stand around all day and talk to 2 or 3
play Monopoly?
members, or will there be 50 media members? Will there be 1,000 race fans? Like what's actually going to happen, right? The closest thing to this that I can think of is, you know, our media day in Daytona, or actually it used to be in Daytona, in Charlotte, where it's all the, you know, we take the pre-race photos and we speak to media. Well, I guess Daytona Day, there's 2 different media days. There's the one in Charlotte, which is NASCAR's sort of pre-production, preseason production day, but then there's the Daytona Media Day, right? Every single driver in Daytona has to go through the media circuits. We go through local media, we go through the radio, we see you guys. What you're kind of suggesting, or what we're sort of talking about, is should we and could we be doing that way more often? And what does it actually look like to do something like that?
I don't even think it needs to be that big of a step, because even if you made the tiniest step right now, like you had a rotation of drivers and you said, all right, these 3 drivers who finished in the top 30 in Cup points last year are going to be required, like we'll alternate it. So like every 10 weeks.
Okay? We used to do that.
3. Yeah. What happened?
Remember
did it completely go away? Because we used to do the previews.
Advance. No, it was called an advance.
The advance. That's what it was called. The advance. Yeah. And it was like,
but those were weeks
before the race.
Yeah, those
2
are gone.
Xfinity drivers and 2 Cup drivers or something like that would have to go to the race venue on a Wednesday.
Yeah. Those are gone. Yeah.
And so do they? Is there none of that anymore?
Mm-mm.
Gone.
I don't know why it stopped, but they're, yeah.
The chat out there live on YouTube, by the way, is similar ideas. Was saying basically 4 to 6 drivers should go there a couple days ahead. A couple people remember going to the Home Depot on a Thursday to get Joey Logano's autograph. Differences between IMSA and the NASCAR culture in terms of drivers hanging out versus going away. I do think it's a little bit cultural. I do think NASCAR, and what's going to happen, Jeff, this with the change in the TV and media rights. I do believe there's going to be more requested from drivers and that sort of stuff, and sort of more incentive as well for drivers to do things and for teams to invest in that. So I think everyone notices is a problem, right? 2-day weekends don't help. That's not a thing that's helping anything. But hey, final thoughts here, just on Vegas. What can everyone expect from you from the Athletic? You said a daily journal. Any other content they should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, our editors have asked us to view this as like the Super Bowl motorsports wise. So like we have our 2 F1 writers here, Luke Smith and Madeline Coleman, Jordan Bianchi, my coworkers here. They're all at the track. I'm going around the city. Then we took Tashawn Reed, who's our Raiders writer in Vegas, off the Raiders for a week. He's here doing Vegas stuff. We've got this other guy from the UK who I think is doing something on the fan experience that came over. So I think we have like 6 people here. Wow. And I should say that unlike the NASCAR stories, it's a different model. So like when I'm talking about, read my 12 questions or whatever, it's behind a paywall, right? Usually on The Athletic. But the F1 coverage exists because it's funded by advertising. It's not funded by the subscriptions. So I believe that all of the F1 stories are free, like unlocked. So we're just trying to blanket it, just do as much as we can. So I don't know where the week's going to take me. I'm still, again, if anybody's out there in the chat wants to shoot me some invite to some party, I'll beg. I mean, it's fine. Like what else, but I mean, I might be doing things as random as like trying to, take a cab ride or something like during qualifying or whatever, and seeing how long it takes me to get around the city or something. I don't know, like whatever it's going to be. So it could be good or bad. I feel like it's a positive first impression for me, but I don't know if it's going to end up that way. So I'll definitely have my daily recaps, and we'll just see how it goes.
All right, we have we have a question of the day for every guest that's come on here. Who's going to finish second in the Las Vegas GP?
This is a really good question. This is a really, really good question. I think so. I did an interview last night with David Coulthard, and I was like, is the tire talk overblown? Like, it's going to be cold, and Pirelli's never had to deal with maybe temperatures quite like this in some ways. And he's like, no, it's not overblown, because he said, take Haas F1 team, for example, right? Haas, a lot of times they'll qualify well, and then as soon as the race starts, they completely fall off a cliff because their car doesn't have the performance. Once the tires heat up, the tires drop. Like they can't their tires won't last, right? But like these temperatures, it's going to be more about trying to keep the heat in your tires, and rather than like wearing them out because they got overcooked or whatever, right? So that you would think could really change the balance of how this race goes. Plus, if the tires are that cold and you're having people make mistakes, there's going to be safety cars, there's going to be contenders taking themselves out. I don't think it's going to be the Max Red Bull runaway that we've seen. I mean, I think there's a lot of elements here that could add up to something different. So my second place driver will be Lando, because he just keeps finishing second. It feels like a lot.
That's a perfect way to end it.
Wait,
man.
so all of that to just come back and say that it's going to be Max probably winning and Lando finishing second.
No, I think that it's going to be like a Ferrari that wins, like a Charles or a Carlos.
Okay.
And I think like McLaren will maybe be in contention, but he won't quite get it done. And I think I'm going to say like Max is wrecked out or something, like something happens to Max where it's like, what is happening? Oh my God, Las Vegas is crazy. One of those things.
Jeff is rooting for chaos. His money
I
is
love
on
it.
chaos in Vegas.
Man on the ground from The Athletic, Jeff Gluck. Thank you for coming here on the Money Lap Live, man. You made this a great show. We thank you so much for that. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to all the content.
Yeah, sorry if I realized how much time I just took of your show here.
No,
Sorry
it's
about
awesome.
that if I rambled too
We
much, but-
appreciate it. It's all good.
Okay,
It's all
cool.
good.
No, we loved it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming
Thank
on,
you guys.
buddy.
Congrats on this. This looks really cool. I was trying to pop in on some of your other guests. It's really, I'm impressed with this. So yeah,
Appreciate
great
it.
stuff. Keep going.
Appreciate
Means
it,
a
man.
lot to us and our production team. We barely screwed up at all throughout this whole thing. We've only got a couple minutes left. Hey, if you like this content, then be sure to tune in every Wednesday from now to December 13th from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern to see it live. Also, can you please like and subscribe and hit the bell icon on this video so you're alerted every time we post something just as good. Thank you.